Today I am reviewing Angmar Awakened, a storyline that is constituted by 6 adventure packs, 6 small expansions for the Lord of the Rings, the card game by Fantasy Flight Games. This expansion requires the base game to play, of course. It also requires another expansion, which is the Lost Realm Deluxe expansion. And then once you play that expansion, you may add to that story by purchasing these 6 adventure packs. I cannot show you the boxes because they don't come in boxes, they come in plastic blisters, and in each you will find, well, this nice cover, then you will find, of course, a bunch of cards, part representing new heroes, attachments, allies, cards that you can add to your decks to customize them. And I'll show you some of those, not all of them because those cards now are melted into my collections. They are into various decks that I use. They're just, it would be a nightmare to recollect them all and then put them back in the decks where I place them. So in each package you find heroes and other allies and cards that you use to create your own decks, to reinforce, to strengthen your own decks. And then of course you find for each encounter cards that are used to form the adventure. Also, each will come with an instruction sheet that gives you the situation, narrates the initial situation, tells you about the new mechanics. Pretty much each adventure pack forming the Angmar Awakened storyline has at least one new mechanic, and also then you have a paragraph with the epilogue that you read if you complete the adventure successfully. So let's talk first about the story, therefore we'll talk about the challenges, the encounter decks. I'm not going to show you the encounter decks so you don't have spoilers, but I'll tell you what happens there. I'll give you a sense of the storyline, how the 6 chapters of the adventure play, what are the individual mechanics, and again, the overall plot, but without giving you too many spoilers. And then we will look at some of the cards that you can put in your decks, allies, heroes, and so on and so forth. Some of the cards that you can put in your deck to increase your chances of success. The Waste of Eriador picks up directly where the Lost Realm expansion had left off. At the end of that, well, we had rescued all the people that we needed to rescue. The orcs had been defeated, but clearly the orcs had allied themselves with some really dark power. And if you haven't watched my video for the Lost Realm expansion, I suggest you do so. So the heroes that you control have decided to keep investigating what the heck is going on with the orcs, and they decided to travel to Rivendell to ask for Elrond's help. In this expansion here, the players travel the titular area. The problem is that it is an area that is inhabited by very hungry and very unfriendly wolves. To simulate the unique behavior of the wolves, there's a mechanic here, which is the day and night mechanic. There's a card, one side represents day, one side represents night, with specific effects on each, and at the end of each round, you flip the card to the other side, unless there are game effects that affect that. During the day, you do not have to take encounter checks, so even if the wolves are in the staging area and usually they would attack you, they do not engage you because they tend to be shy during the day. Of course, then I think you know what happens at night, that they attack massively, and also at night you cannot add progress tokens to the current quest. So the night and day turns really play differently, and it really captures well the idea of like traveling in this unfriendly environment followed by wolves that are shy during the day, but they do not lose sight of you and that attack in mass during the night. So during the day you're rushing like crazy, questing, taking advantage of the fact that you do not have to worry with monsters, with enemies too much, rushing and making as much progress as you can, and then at night fighting these hordes of horrible big canine monsters that attack you. Really nice. It creates auto tension. There's a game effect that of course flips the card when you don't expect the card to flip. You had quested a lot and then night comes soon. That can be pretty punishing, but really fun, really interesting. It feels unique, it feels extraordinarily thematic, presents auto challenges, and tough and fun. Definitely one of my favorites of the 6 adventure packs. Escape from Mount Graham has some really interesting encounter cards and also some very interesting equipment cards that you add to your decks. There are the allies, the ents. The ents are added here, which is kind of funny because the adventure takes place underground. Where the adventure takes place in this underground kingdom system of caves controlled by the goblins. What were the ents doing down there? Like the goblins were growing them? Did they have the little plantation of ents underground? No idea. But at the end of this adventure, the heroes were pretty tired and exhausted, and so they fell easy prey to the goblins that trapped them in the prisons under Mount Graham. Fun cards, fun, interesting ideas. The structure of the adventure, the unique mechanics here, I didn't like them all that much. And to me, this is the pack of the 6 that I enjoyed a little less. In terms of the adventure, again, the resources that you gain are good. What happens is that you need to create a capture deck with your allies, with your items, with your mounts, etc., etc., etc. That is the stuff that the goblins took from you once you were captured. And you only start with one hero, and so basically you quest around the mountains. There are mechanics that allow you to retrieve your stuff from time to time. So you really have the sense, yes, very thematic, that you're going, that you're trying to escape from the tunnels and you pick up your stuff as you go. But I don't know, this is a game where you do so much deck selecting, you spend so much time and work creating good decks, and you want to have your stuff, making it part of the adventure to recover the stuff that should be rightfully yours, and it is in all of the scenarios. Something was in there did not click with me. I wasn't all that excited about it. Across the Moors is a scenario which in essence is not all that different from this one. You do not have the day and night mechanics here, but it is the idea that you're traveling across a very unfriendly area and you are being attacked by monsters from time to time. The heroes escaped from the prison of the goblins. They resumed their trip towards Rivendell. Also, you see, this also narratively in the arc feels a little unnecessary. These are digression that doesn't really add much. It could have just been a long trip to go to Rivendell, and it would have worked just the same. This time the monsters tend to be big, giant humanoids rather than wolves, but other than that, it is still the idea travel and fight. It is well executed, again with more ends and with more interesting heroes and attachments. But nothing all that good, reliable, better than this one. Nothing too earth-shattering mechanically or narratively. But this one is possibly my favorite of the 6, the Treacher of Rudor. The players, the heroes, now are exploring this mansion on their way to Rivendell, which is the family mansion of one character that was kidnapped by the orcs, and you also are worrying about that character. The orcs have allied themselves with supernatural forces. Those supernatural forces have some plots that seem to involve a character that was kidnapped. Now you're investigating this old mansion, which happens to be full of monsters, and you're trying to find clues to the overall quest. And this is the cool thing. At the beginning, you start the first quest, and you have only a limited amount of time to go around and to complete side quests that will give you clues. So there are these side quests. When you complete one, you flip it to the other side, and you have a clue, which is a neat resource. I'm not going to tell you what the stuff is, but let's think of it as treasures. Let's think of it like good stuff. So there's an initial phase where you don't get attacked much. At least that was my experience. Maybe just the way that the deck was shuffled. And it really gave me the sense of wandering around this silent mansion that feels haunted. There is a threat, a menace in the air, but it's not quite materialized yet. I try to collect clues, and then all of a sudden, the main game starts. Because you only have a certain amount of time looking for clues, and then you do get attacked by hordes of the undead. You know that orcs and undead are the two main villains in the Lost Realm expansion and in the Angmar Awakened storyline. So now you have monsters that are ghosts, that are sort of like revenants, and that monsters attacking you. But I really like this two-phase, two-act story. Rush to collect clues to gain resources that you will use to your advantage once the main battle starts, and then the second part of the scenario is more battle-oriented and battles with the undead. Talk about battle, our heroes finally reach Rivendell, talk to Elrond. Elrond gives them an understanding of what's going on, and I'm not going to tell you what that is, so you can figure it out, you can discover it by yourself. But suffice to say that then as a response, the heroes, together with a group of orcs, elves, decide to raid the Fortress of Carndom, where an old friend, an old... a person is not the right word, an old character that the players have met before is waiting for them. Not a big spoiler, but if you played the Lost Realm expansion, you probably know who this guy is. One of the returning villains. He shows up from time to time in the adventure. Here becomes one of the big presences in this battle. He's represented by a double card that shows him on one side as a champion, on the other side as a captain, with different effects, with different behaviors. Heavily battle oriented. In fact, here there is the battle mechanics that states that when there is a battle effect in place, then to progress towards the completion of a quest, you need to use battle symbols instead of wisdom symbols. Finally, the heroes brought themselves to the final confrontation with the bad guys, which is this time a extravaganza, deluge, it's raining ghosts, it's raining dead people. You see dead people, you get slaughtered by dead people, they're everywhere. As simple as this, you get attacked by the forces of evil that were plotting, that were behind all this, finally reached the core of evil, the heart of darkness, which also means you have a chance of defeating, well, I'm trying not to give you spoilers, whoever it is that is behind all this. But all that happened here was orchestrated, of course, by a force related with the undead, meaning to attempting to resurrect some really ancient and terrible evil. Super tough. Oh gosh, this one is super tough. In general, this is a hard storyline. The difficulty goes up and down. This scenario I found a little easier than the other ones. This I find okay, doable. The other ones I found very, very difficult. This one is difficult because of the timing, but if you get the timing right, night and day, it becomes doable. These are simply terrifyingly difficult and challenging scenarios, which is good. You know, it's good because you want a challenge, otherwise the game gets boring. Good storyline, a lot of different challenges, a lot of different mechanics. Now, for the cards, the encounters that you get. Overall, well, there are a lot of different things. I'm not going to cover them all. It would take us forever. What I can tell you is that there is a common theme. You do get a lot of Noldor and Silvan allies, effects, characters, heroes with this. When you put together all of the cards of this adventure pack. So much so that I have created a deck, which I did not have before, mixing together cards from these expansions, a Noldor Silvan-oriented deck. So instead of covering all of the cards, I'm going to show you some of the cards that I used to create this deck. For example, these two heroes, Erestor and Arwen, both come from this storyline here. And basically, since there are so many effects that have to do with Noldor and Silvan, that seemed good. And in this deck, I played two colors, green and blue, with these two heroes together with Eowyn. The theme here is manipulating cards. Both them and other cards here, there are a lot of effects that have to do with drawing extra card, discarding cards to creating effects. So it works very well, and here we have a guide that allows you to draw 3 additional cards at the beginning of the resource phase. At the end you have to discard them all, but that's okay because he draws those cards. Then both Arwen and Eowyn have effects that are fueled by discarding cards, so it's good to have a lot of them. You discard one to add the resource to a Noldor hero, so it can be herself, can be him, or Aragorn. Usually I play the game, when I play the game solo, I play with 2 decks. One is this one, and another one, at least what I've done recently, is a red only deck. So we have healers and questers and badasses together. So it gives you a great flexibility here that he brings in cards, she burns them, and can give effects and can give an extra resource token to Aragorn, or to a blue or a green card or a blue card. Pretty much can add a resource token that can be used to purchase virtually any and every card, any card in the game. So that is good. Yeah, when we know her from the basic set that she also needs cards to be really awesome. As for other effects, there are cards from the base set and from the Lost Realm. We'll just look at the ones that come from the storyline here. This is a neat one because when the quest is defeated, you get an advantage. There, the brooch is from the Lost Realm. Of course, if you want to pause, then you can still see them. Elven, Dwarf, again, Noldor. Nothing special, but it's good. Inexpensive ally. This is a good mount, which of course goes well with a Noldor or a blue hero. So again, any of these would work. That's a good thing of having thematic decks. When you commit to a quest, you discard a card from your hand. Again, remember why we need the cards. And then you place 2 progress on the active location. The snares from the base set, more that steed. A card that needs to be played from the discard pile. So it's okay if we keep getting new cards and discarding them. It's even better. We need actually to discard cards. And once you get it, then you pay a resource, you return it to your hand, and you also draw a card. As you can see, I created here a little neat engine that brings cards back to your hand and burns them constantly. A nice little harp. Nothing much, but not too bad. Craftsman cannot attack or defend, but brings a little bit of will and joy. Oh, we're talking about cards. Can you believe a card here that has an effect that manipulates cards? After it enters plays, if you have less than three cards, you draw up to 3 cards. Choose a Noldor or Silvan character. You add wisdom to strength. This allows you to survive for longer in the game, even if your threat reaches the maximum. These kind of things. As you can see, it's a neat deck by itself. Wouldn't probably survive, wouldn't get you far. This is another character that is good when sent on side quests. Wouldn't get you too far by itself, but works well in combination with another deck if you have one that you can read the text. That hits and inflicts some damage, which is precisely what what I usually do in my synergy. This is an ent, one of the several ents, the only ent type of ent that I have in this deck. All ents enter play exhausted, but they're just tough, neat, good fighters, good human shields. So I have this deck, basically I faced the adventure here with a deck of Silvan and Noldor cards, backed up by a deck full of ents and dwarves, just the people that hit very hard. This is a neat dwarf warrior. Feel free to pause and read the text. There's another good, interesting event from the Angmar Awakened. Good sentinel ents. There is a card that modifies what the ents can do. Where is that? Baron. How are you doing, Baron? I saw Baron. I always say hi because I think it's polite to do so. And he scares me. This is another good ent because you can inflict damage on him and then he deals damage on other people. A song. Oh, here's the Valor Trigger. The Valor Trigger is explained in the storyline here with the Valor Trigger. It's a trigger that activates when you have 40 threats or more. Here we have a Ranger that also comes from the Angmar storyline. And that should be it. Actually, something I haven't showed you earlier. If with this ent here, I showed you the end, but if you inflict a damage on him, then he gains +3. That means that, yes, he'll get shaken, but when these horrible monsters inflict a lot of damage, maybe they have an effect that the damage spills over, so you really don't want that to happen, you really want somebody to absorb the damage. These guys act as excellent living shields. And then we have a bowman, because bowmans always help. So there's this, well, I'll show you the decks that I used. Oh, there's also a deck here with green and purple, but these are my 3 main decks. But these 2 really are the ones that I mainly use when facing the adventures of the Angmar Awakened storyline. It's a good storyline thematically as well as mechanically. Great variety, a lot of options, out of different adventures. The chapters of the story really feel thematic. They really create a nice narrative, with the exception of this digression here that I didn't find all the necessary story-wise. But overall, a very good storyline. I'm glad I invested some money to purchase these expansions here, because they were fun to play individually. They go together well. They really gave me the sense of a nice spanning narrative, which is, of course, what you want to do when you're playing a game about Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is originally, when it only was a book, a triumph in narrative, a triumph in storytelling. It is great to see that there are games such as this one that capture some of that beauty and translate it into game mechanics that are playable and remain really rich in story. Lord of the Rings, the living card game, Angmar Awakened, a highly recommended storyline, 6 adventure packs. Look for them, because it's worth investing the money to purchase them, and definitely is worth taking the time to play the storyline.